What's up, tribe? What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? This is going to be a review of Married to Medicine, season 7, episode 12. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And let's go ahead and get this party started. So we pick up where we left off with them sitting poolside, having the conversation, basically playing 20 questions or whatever, however you want to call it. And we're seeing a little bit more of this conversation of this conversation that we saw last week. You know, last week we saw a lot of, we ended with the whole Contessa Scott situation, but we saw a little bit more of what led up to that. And so it didn't look so abrupt that Contessa would just get up and walk away. We saw that the conversation continued, and that every time there was a question that was brought up, Contessa and Scott found a way to make it about the problems they were having in their relationship. A question came up about yelling in public, and whether you should yell, how you feel about your spouse yelling at you in public. And of course, Contessa and Scott sort of, was saying how, and then Scott kept talking about women being angry and women yelling anyway, and women. And honey, everybody was looking at him like, just stop, let that go. But honey, he kept talking. Then they asked about your spouse moving out, working out of state. And Buffy and her husband had gone through that. And Buffy said, well, you came home every weekend. And Scott mumbled over to Contessa, well, they don't have kids. So that's, it's not the same for them. And Contessa was just like. Then the question that we left off on last week came up about your spouse changing careers. So we saw what sort of led up to the blow up. And so, Contessa was saying that it's not the same for men and for women. When a man decides to change careers, it's all good. His wife's supposed to just support him and everything is great. But when it's the other way around, women just don't get the same support that men get. Now, we got a little bit more backstory to this situation today. So before I get into the backstory, just based on what we already know, I really felt like Scott was supporting you, but it was hard. Y'all have 3 children with no nanny that we know of, and it was all on Scott, who also has a very demanding job. I didn't necessarily think that Scott was doing. I felt like he was doing the best he could. Now, bringing in what we learned this episode, what I feel is that Contessa is holding on to a lot of anger and resentment that should have been discussed before now, because now it has built up, and it is this situation has created this problem. So let's get to what we found out. So Contessa gets up and walks away. Buffy goes after her. Scott didn't go after her. Scott was like, let her go. Buffy went after her, and Buffy was like, look, what's good? Like, what is really going on? And Contessa was like, I can't, I'm just tired. He doesn't, she's basically letting Buffy know what's up. And Buffy said, well, have you talked to him? She said, because I think that he feels like he's supporting you. So maybe he's not supporting you the way you need to be supported, but in his mind, he is supporting you. So y'all need to have a conversation of what that looks like, what the expectation is, and what that looks like coming from the other person. So Contessa went on to explain how in their marriage, she's always been the one to make the sacrifice. She said that when they met, she was in the military, and she loved being in the military. She probably would have been career. It sounds to me like she probably would have made it her career. And that her and Scott were long distance their whole relationship. And even the first year they got married, they were still long distance. Scott relocated to Atlanta to be with her. But when it was time for her to move again, military, moving them again, Scott said he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to uproot the family. He wanted to stay somewhere in one spot. So Contessa left the military to stay there because that's not what he wanted to do. She said, he's the youngest of 10 children, and he has very specific ideas on what a mother's role in the home is. And she was saying that, she just always feels like she's the one making the sacrifice, and he doesn't see it that way, and he doesn't understand the sacrifice that she's making. But again, sounds to me like you've been holding on to this resentment going all the way back to when you left the military, which means all the way back to y'all second, third year marriage, which means that it has been compounding over time. Every time you did something that you felt like he was not understanding you or understanding your struggle, every single time, now you're kind of putting that on him. That's how I felt. And that's not to say that it's right or it's wrong, but it's not fair to him to punish him for something he doesn't know you have a problem with. If he doesn't know that you, and again, I ain't in their household, maybe she has expressed this to him, I don't know. But I can only go by the conversation she had with Buffy, and it sounds like this is something she's been holding on to, and that now she feels like the one time I needed you to do something for me. And then something else she said, he never bought me my kids. She said, it was always on me to drive to Atlanta. He never drove up or out west, whatever, and brought the kids to me. And she said there were days when I was driving to Atlanta, spending the day, and then driving back the same day, just so I could spend time with my kids. Now, again, I don't know enough of the story, but I'm just saying, you have 3 children. I'm pretty sure your kids are in activities. Maybe it wasn't conducive for him to pack the kids up and drive up to Tennessee for the weekend. Maybe one had basketball, one had cheerleading, one had soccer practice, one had Girl Scouts. I don't know. Maybe their schedules, because again, we don't want the kids to have to pay for the adults' decisions. So maybe it was not conducive for him to pack the children up because they had stuff to do in Atlanta. Now, yeah, I don't know. I don't have enough of that information. But I do know that with 3 active children, it would probably be hard. Not impossible, but hard. And Buffy's husband said, look, you know, he's a psychiatrist, and he said, look, if they don't figure out a way to communicate with each other, the prognosis ain't good for the 2 of them. That's just my humble opinion. So later on that night, the guys are going out for a guys' night, and the ladies are going to stay and have, dinner together, what have you. And on the ladies' side, what we decided, well, not what we, Lord, I wasn't there. What Simone decided was that she was going to have a celebration of living single for Quad. She said, last year, I was not there for Quad, and I gave Quad a whole lot of problems when we should have been there to support her. She said, I don't think we, as her friends, her sister group of friends, did a good enough job supporting her and being there for her at the time when she needed us most. And so for my part in it, the way that I'm going to make it up to her is let's having a little celebration tonight. Now, on the other side, Cecil is taking the fellas out to dinner. And then after dinner, honey, he's taking them to the strip club. I don't even need to tell you who had a problem with it and who didn't. Do I? Okay, let's proceed. Now, during the intermission, when we getting ready for dinner, Scott and Contessa are back at their villa, honey, and they not even speaking to each other. So it's not. And let me say this sidebar. I've been meaning to say this since the last episode. Buffy, girl, you look good. Okay? That Janet Jackson Pleasure Principle hair you had. No, that wasn't Pleasure Principle. Pleasure Principle was the Chinese bob and the long. No. The control, the velvet rope, whatever that hair, that y'all know the hair I'm talking about. That and the makeup, and Buffy, it was working for you. You looked really, really cute, I think, Buffy, down in Cabo. Whatever makeup you was doing, whatever hairstyle you put together, it looked really nice on you, okay? That's my 2 cents, and I like it. That hairstyle you were wearing the first couple of episodes, that didn't do you no justice. But this, I like this. I like the little hair thing you had working. Honey, they getting ready to go. The fellas getting ready to go out to dinner, and the daggone, Buffy's husband is waiting for them. Cecil gonna say, and the nicest way he could, he basically said, look, we work on CP time around here. He said, look, I'm gonna have to let you understand how things go around here, because he said, you always ready and we always late. And Cecil said, Dave comes from a different culture. And in his culture, when we say 7 o'clock, he's there at 6:58. We know what that means. Anyway, so the guys go out to dinner, and they have a nice meal. They do what guys do. You know what I mean? They had a good meal. They laughed. They joked. They talked about threesomes. And, you know, who would be down for a threesome and who wouldn't be down for a threesome, honey. And you know none of them publicly said they was down for those threesomes. Publicly. So, then after that, you know, Cecil said, well, I got something, you know, planned for us afterwards. And, of course, nobody knew where they was going. And then Cecil finally said, look, we're going to the strip club. Honey, they pulled up. That daggone Damon talking about something. These women don't have on any clothes. I need to know where Damon pledged. I need to know who pledged Damon. I ain't never seen a cute act like he's scared of seeing some naked women. Now, I think he was just scared of his wife, but that's another conversation. So, they get to the strip club, honey. Now, I'm not going to say nothing about them women at the strip club. Because I don't want to tell y'all too much of my business about how I know what goes on at the strip clubs, okay? But, Heavenly, you don't have nothing to worry about, boo. You don't. I promise you, you don't have nothing to worry about, okay? They get to the strip club. And they do what you do at a strip club. You know what I mean? They had drinks. They went VIP. They watched the women. They threw money. They tucked money. The women were grinding up on it and giving them lap dances and stuff like that. But, honey, then one of them going to lean over to Damon and going to say, do you want sex? Now, Damon was having himself the time of his life, so she said that. That was almost like you might as well have thrown some cold water in his face. It was almost like that reminded him of where he was and what he was doing, honey. He said, oh, no. Somebody else needs a dance now. It was like, it was like the lights came on when she leaned over and said that to him. I said, oh. And they got that on camera. They know they was wrong for getting that on camera, honey. They probably paid her to say that. Anyway. So that's what the fellas were doing. And y'all already, they said that was revenge for the paint and sip. Okay? Now, none of the ladies had a problem with the paint and sip. I mean, with the guys going to the strip club, except for Heavenly. And we're going to get back to Dr. Heavenly. Now, down to the beach, that's where the ladies were. They were down on the beach, and they were having their own, like I said, their own little thing with this living single. And they let Quad know that they were celebrating her. They had this little crown. Simone, where you get that crown from? You could have went to Party City and got a better crown than that. Where did you get that thing from? But it was nice. They gave her some sex toys, and they had a nice thing. And it was basically just a way to let her know, look, we don't want you to feel too left out. And it was nice and inclusive, and I think it was a nice way of acknowledging that, you know, last year we probably didn't handle this the best way, and we're here for you now. And that's cool. Then they played, basically, sex. She said shag, marry, kill. Y'all know the game. And it was fun. They had a good time. And the ladies, it was, you know what, on both sides, it was a nice drama-free evening. Even though Mariah was throwing her little shade in her confessional, she was there and she played along and she had a good time. You know, Mariah, she wanted to be friends with Quad again so bad. She don't know what to do with herself. Then, before the dinner started, Buffy and Jackie had a moment, and Jackie apologized to Buffy. Buffy accepted her apology, but I still feel. Now, other people told me that Jackie did, in the confessional, they told me that Jackie did make a public apology, but for whatever reason, they edited it out. So if she made a public apology, then I'm done with it. But if she didn't, I appreciate her apologizing to Buffy privately. But again, I tell y'all, and I say it again, apologize to me the way you disrespected me. You disrespected me publicly. Apologize publicly. But I'm done with it. She apologized. She apologized privately, without the attitude, without getting nasty, and I'm moving on. Okay. we make mistakes. We say things we ain't supposed to say, and it is what it is, and we move on. But it was a nice night. Everybody had a good time. Now, the next morning, fellas didn't get in until 2 o'clock in the morning, child. And what we found out, or the ladies found out, we already knew, that they had gone to the strip club. Now, again, most of the ladies didn't have a problem with it. And the way I feel about it is, if Dr. Jackie don't have a problem with her man going to the strip club, none of y'all should have a problem with it. If she trusts him to go to the strip club, then y'all all should be good with it. But they went to the strip club, and Heavenly had an attitude, and she confronted Dr. Damon about it. And Damon was like, for real? Like, you had a whole penis in your face. She talking about something, but I didn't like it. He said, well, I didn't like it. I mean, y'all know how Damon is. Damon was like, and she was asking him these questions, honey, and you could tell he didn't want to lie, but he knew telling the truth was going to be a problem. And he tried his best to avoid giving the straight answer without just blatantly lying, And of course, Heavenly was pissed off, and she let him know she was pissed off, and she walked on out the room. So later on, Lord have mercy. So later on, she meets up with the ladies. They're putting together their packages. They always do a volunteer, a medical clinic type thing whenever they travel. So they're putting together their bags for that. And it's Dr. Jackie and Simone and it's Heavenly Honey. Heavenly walking there with attitude. And she's giving them stank face. And she's talking about... And Jackie said, so is this how you act when you have a problem with something? I don't have no problem with it. What you talking about? I don't have no problem. Jackie said... And so, of course, Heavenly eventually let them know that she didn't like the fact that her husband had women all in the face and didn't like the fact they went to a strip club. And I know she gonna find a way to blame Simone because Cecil was the one that set the trip up. That's really why she went in there with an attitude, because she was ready to give Simone the business. But Simone and Jackie didn't have no problem with it, so she was like, y'all don't have no problem? Well, I guess if y'all don't have no problem, I guess I don't have no problem. I guess I can't have a problem since everybody else is fine with it. And even the producers were trying to get her to, explain what her issue was. And she said, stop asking me these questions because I'm going to get mad. Stop asking me these questions, I'm going to get mad. And then she finally came out and said, no, I don't like it. I have a problem with it and I don't like it. Now, Heavenly, you have every right to have a problem with it. But girl, you had a whole naked man pick you up. And like Damon said, you ain't leave. You stayed for the whole event. You did not get up and walk out. And remember at the time, her excuse at the time was she thought it would be rude. Well, he thought it would be rude too, Heavenly. He thought it would be rude too. Anyway, y'all, that's what the episode is. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in them comments. Peace.